So a big, strong number here in terms of starts, a lot higher than we were expecting. What kind of homes are being built?
Well, you know, most of the homes being built, or what most of the increase is due to multiple family homes. So we're talking about apartments and row houses in the month of June. So big increase there of higher density housing. A lot of the increase located in spots like Montreal and Toronto that saw big increases in multi-construction. Not such a big increase in Vancouver. In fact, Vancouver was down, but the level is very high there as well. So continued very strong pace of activity, just a bit lower than the previous month.
Now we do know, Bob, when it comes to these multi-families, as they're called, the condos or row houses, it can be a volatile number. But is there something in this number you take a look at and you think developers are getting the message? Because everyone I talk to is talking now about the need, particularly in Toronto or Vancouver, where affordability is stretched. You have to build the right kind of home to bring affordability back to the market. Are we moving in that direction?
I think we're moving in that direction in the sense that we're seeing a lot more of the multiple family homes being constructed, and they are cheaper to buy as a rule than single family homes. I still think there are challenges on that front though, and when we look at a lot of the multis, especially in the condo market of what's being built, we have a lot of very small units that aren't necessarily suitable for families. And so if we want to make multifamily living more accessible to families that maybe have children that maybe need a 1 or 2 bedroom apartment, a lot of the bachelor units that are small units that are being built don't necessarily fit the bill. And in fact, there's a real lack of, say, 3-bedroom units being built in urban areas. And so I think that's one area where, in order to increase the appeal of higher density housing for families and to make more affordable housing available for families, we have to move in that direction.
How do we get there? Because I think of a developer who's got themselves a parcel of land in the big city, and they think, what am I going to do with this? I'm building a condo tower. Am I going to carve it up into a lot of tiny little units, or am I going to make them a little bit bigger? Is there an incentive, an economic incentive for them to want to build a 3-bedroom condo?
Well, and those, I think, are some of the challenges that lie ahead to try to solve. And so I don't have a lot of answers on that right now. But clearly, I think, you know, with CMHC's strategy to, you know, improve affordability and to get to 2030, where everyone in Canada has a place to live that they can afford and meets their needs, some work has to be done. It's a big, difficult, audacious goal, but it's definitely one that we want to work towards and talk about. And so at least by highlighting the challenges, we can sort of pinpoint where some of the pressure points are, and then we have to work with others to try to solve these problems, and clearly trying to get more affordable housing for families is one of the key areas.
The first-time home buyer incentive, which was announced in the spring budget, obviously that's your agency's thrust, and it's coming in September. Any further work done in terms of what you think the uptake on this might be? At first, it seemed like when I was talking to people in the industry, whether in the mortgage brokerage industry or on the sales side, saying, are a lot of people asking about this, and they hadn't been asked by the general public about the program. Do you think the word is getting out?
Hard to say there, but we have done some estimates of the impact, and they should be, you know, it's a fairly targeted measure to help with first-time buyers, and as a result, it's sort of at the margin and fairly small. And we don't anticipate it to have much of an impact on, for example, inflating house prices because it's a small program. And, you know, there are certain demand-side measures like this that help to improve affordability in the short term, but really what we need to do in the long term is work on the supply side. And so, but supply takes time. You can't just arrive at the market overnight with new supply to help increase what's available to people in an affordable price range. And so some of these measures are great in the short term, but over the long term, I think a lot of the focus to improve affordability has to be on the supply side of the market, and those are some of the key challenges that lie ahead.
Is that what makes it so tough as well? Obviously, you mentioned about supply just can't show up overnight. It's a long process, but you bring in something like the first-time home buyer incentive. You don't want to stoke demand to the degree that you set prices off, but you do want to help people. Right. Do you end up having a program that gets watered down too much because you fear on the other end of the equation spiraling prices?
Well, I think it's not so much a question of watering down, but targeting it to where the need is. And so, you know, this is targeted to helping some first-time home buyers, and that's sort of going to, you know, be at the margins and target a specific segment of the market, but it's not so large. We estimate that on house prices, it'll increase house prices, some upward pressure, but 0.02 to 0.04%. So very small increase on the level of house prices, and in the meantime, that provides some relief to folks that are in need at the entry level of the market. And as I say, longer term, in terms of doing something meaningful on affordability, efforts are very much focused on the supply side.
Lastly, I want to ask you, Bob, I know that I felt there's been a change of tone to a certain degree from CMHC, Canada's housing agency. Evan Siddall, even your leader, at times saying maybe people need to get used to the idea of renting for their entire lifetime. The fact that we're seeing condos, and they're obviously part of the rental stock for a lot of people, sort of speak to that as well, that people will be renters for a long time, if not life?
Well, you know, I think CMHC has never really been an advocate for home ownership above rental. I think so. We have definitely products that serve home ownership, so some of the homeowner mortgage insurance products, but we also insure the construction of rental. And so really, we have never advocated for home ownership over rental or vice versa. I think there are different types of homes that suit people with different budgets and different lifestyles, and it's important for all of these options to be available to people. And quite often, it's, you know, even across Canada, you see very large differences in home ownership rates from places like Montreal, where a lot of more people rent as a proportion of the population compared to, say, Toronto or in Vancouver, and in other international cities like New York, in large cities where house prices are higher, you do see a much higher incidence of rental, and so there's nothing wrong with that as long as we can help people have access to affordable housing, whether it's rental or home ownership. Isn't really a policy objective for us. It's just to make sure that that affordable housing is available.